Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited for today's video because we are going to be doing a full face of Essence, which is one of my favorite drugstore brands. They have remained pretty affordable over the years, even though a lot of drugstore makeup is not so affordable anymore. A lot of the prices keep going up, but Essence is still affordable in my opinion. I do have a few first impressions as well as some favorites in today's video. So let's go ahead and start with foundation. This is the Keep Me Covered Long Lasting Foundation. I did pick up two shades, but I think I'm going to use the shade 110 Buff. Surprisingly, this is a little bit lighter than the shade before it, which I did pick up, and I swatched it earlier, but it looks like it's going to be too dark for me. This is in the shade 100 Natural Ochre. These are both very warm toned shades, but I feel like 110 Buff is going to be a better match. So this foundation is supposed to be transfer and waterproof, free of silicones, parabens, microplastic particles, oils, perfume, and alcohol. It's also vegan, and Essence, I'm pretty sure, is still a cruelty-free brand, which I think is awesome. This is supposed to have medium to full coverage, and it does come in 20 different shades, which is not a huge shade range. And I have noticed that quite a few of the shades are really warm toned, but luckily, I think I found a pretty good match. Okay, it is giving me, I would say, medium coverage with a brush, and I think I'm just gonna apply the foundation like this to my entire face. Or you know what, let me just do one half of my face with a brush, and let's try this side with a sponge just to see what kind of coverage we get. But this is looking really nice so far. I don't know why I expected it to be a little heavier looking, but it looks pretty natural. But let's go ahead and try the other half with a sponge. I'm gonna go ahead and dot it first. Might look a little too warm toned for me right now, but once I blend it in, it seems to match me really well. Okay, that looks so good. I'm loving both sides, but this one is definitely a little more natural looking than the side with a brush, but I don't know, I can't quite decide. I feel like it looks really good on both sides, and I'm gonna build it up just a tiny bit more in certain areas where I feel like I need a little more coverage. So I'm just building it up on my cheeks. It seems to be building up really nicely. I am genuinely surprised right now at how good it looks on the sides of my nose. Foundations usually don't look this good on me, but this foundation is really surprising me. I honestly didn't expect much from it. I've seen some mixed reviews. I'll have to see how it wears though, so I'm gonna try to include an update in the comments down below. Let's go in with concealer. This is the Keep Me Covered concealer with aloe vera. I picked mine up in the shade light medium. I have not swatched this yet, but this also looks like it's gonna be a pretty good match. Okay, that is darker than the foundation. I'm gonna blend it in with my sponge. It looks so natural, and that just like blended out super easily. The shade is really throwing me off though. They didn't have swatches, I think, on the Ulta website. I think I'm getting close to medium coverage. Maybe if I were to blend it out with a brush, I would have gotten medium coverage, but it's looking to be more on the lighter coverage side. This is definitely a natural looking concealer, pretty luminous. It is creasing a little bit already. I'm not surprised because it seems to be pretty hydrating, but maybe once I set it with a powder, it'll hopefully stay in place. But let's go in with cream bronzer next. This is the Baby Got Bronze bronzing stick, and I picked this up in the shade Cinnamon Spice. I did open this a couple of days ago and it smells really good. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it does remind me of some sort of bubble gum that I've tried. I can't think of the actual flavor though, but it smells very nostalgic to me. I can't really explain it. Okay, let's just apply it directly and see how it blends out. Ooh, that's a pretty good shade. And I'm gonna blend it out with this Morphe brush. This is the A58 brush. That's blending out really easily. I've been loving this brush for blending out cream bronzer. I think I'm just gonna apply it directly to my face for the other side. I don't feel like it dried down too quickly. I think I applied a little bit more on this side. This is really nice. I don't mean to seem so surprised, but I just haven't tried any cream bronzers from Essence, and I can be a little picky with products like this. I'm just taking my sponge and tapping over it. I feel like I applied a little too much in certain areas, but this is looking so good on my skin, and this is such a good shade. I like that it's neutral, and it's so easy to blend. I didn't feel like it dried down too quickly. It didn't look patchy in any areas. I am so impressed with this so far. Let's try the cream blush now. This one I picked up in the shade Rosy All Day. And this one I'm actually gonna pick up directly onto the brush first. Okay, that looks super pigmented. I wasn't expecting that. This one has the same kind of scent. Yeah, it's the same scent as a cream bronzer. So I'm applying this with the e.l.f. Beautifully Bare brush. I think that's what it's called. I haven't seen this brush anymore online. I hope they didn't discontinue it because this is my favorite brush for applying cream blushes. But this is looking so pretty. I was gonna pick up another shade of this cream blush, but I figured I would try this first. And now I really wanna pick up another shade. I feel like you could go for a natural look with this, but then you can really build it up. That looks really pretty. I would say it has a natural finish. Maybe it does lean a little bit matte though. I'm not seeing any sort of glow from the blush. And then same with the cream bronzer, but so far so good with both of those. Let's go ahead and set the under eyes with the Brighten Up Banana Powder. And this is a favorite of mine. For some reason, I just hadn't repurchased it, but I finally did. I completely hit pan on one of these a little over a year ago. I almost completely used it up, but the little bit of powder that was left was getting really old and it was just crumbling apart. So I finally repurchased it and I'm so happy to have this back in my life. But this does a really good job at brightening my under eyes. And I like that it's not a super yellow banana powder. It goes on almost translucent with just a little bit of brightness. I love the way that this powder set the concealer because the concealer is very hydrating. So it was already creasing on the little fine lines that I have. But I highly recommend this powder, especially if you don't want anything too yellow, but still a little brightening. This powder, however, I have never tried before, and I think this is pretty new. This is the Keep Me Covered powder, and I got this in the shade Light Medium. I was gonna go for the shade before this, which I think was the shade Light, but I figured this one might work out for me, so let's see. It says that it's a silky lightweight powder with a smooth and natural finish, easily blendable and long-lasting, and it builds from medium to fuller coverage. So this kind of sounds like a powder foundation, but I don't think it technically is. So let's go ahead and set the entire face. It does seem to be adding a little bit of coverage, not as much as an actual powder foundation, I would say, but it does say that you can build it up to be fuller coverage. I think that looks really good. It did mattify my skin, but it doesn't look super dry and textured, and it did give a hint of coverage. I probably could build it up a little bit more, but I'm pretty happy with the way that it looks. I don't feel like I need any more bronzer, but I do want to try this. This is the Sun Club Matte Bronzing Powder Palette, and unfortunately the mirror in here came shattered, but luckily none of it got into the actual powders. You do get 4 powder bronzers in here. I feel like a variety of different skin tones could use this palette because they do go from really light to really deep, but I'm gonna mix the top 2 shades. These seem to be pretty pigmented, but they're blending out really nicely. And I'm adding some to the sides of my nose. I forgot to do that with the cream bronzer stick, and just buffing around the edges with my powder brush. That looks really pretty. I feel like they look really seamless on my skin, and I love the amount of pigment that these powder bronzers have. They're not way too pigmented to where they're hard to blend out, but you don't have to build them up like crazy for them to show up. I'm gonna apply some powder blush, but I wanna do my eyes first. So I did pick up 2 of these mini palettes. This one is called Coral Me Maybe, and I think this one is gonna be really nice for spring. I've never actually tried any eyeshadows from Essence before, so I'm really excited to try these. And then this one I can already guess is gonna be my favorite. This one is called Bronzed This Way. So let's go ahead and try these out. I'm gonna go ahead and prime my lids. I don't have an eyeshadow primer from Essence, unfortunately. I kind of just forgot to look for one, but I think they have one. I did used to use one years ago called I Love Stage eyeshadow base or something like that. And I think that was one of my first eyeshadow primer purchases. I remember loving that eyeshadow primer. So I'm just gonna apply some Milani eyeshadow primer. The Milani one is just a solid go-to for me. So I'm gonna dip into both of these palettes. I'm gonna try to use at least a couple of shades from each just to get a feel for them. But let's start off with this light coral matte shade from the Coral Me Maybe palette. So I'm just applying that into my crease. Ooh, that is pigmented. I was not expecting this level of pigment, but that went on really easily. Okay, I didn't even have to build that one up. If you hear some snoring in the background, that is my cat Barbara. She is passed out right now. She is usually in here with me while I'm filming. And yeah, she's over there snoring like the lazy cat that she is. Let's dip into the Bronzed This Way palette now. And I'm gonna dip into this matte shade over here. It's like a light maroon shade. This one is also very pigmented. I'm keeping this on the outer corners, but I'm blending a little bit into the crease. I would say about halfway. And using that same brush, I'm gonna take this matte brown shade, but I'm just gonna use the same brush. I don't feel like getting another brush dirty. So applying a little bit to the outer corners right over top of that other shade. I just wanna deepen it up a little bit. I'm gonna take my fluffy blending brush and buff over the edges. I have so many options as far as shimmer shades for the lids. I don't know which one to pick. I'm probably gonna layer a couple of them as I usually do. So let's start with maybe this one from the Bronze This Way palette. That is a gorgeous bronze shade. So I think I am gonna apply this one. That looks so pretty on the lids. This shade is really nice and creamy, and it applied super easily to my lid. I love the texture of that shimmer. It feels really creamy, but it's not the kind of shimmer that just kind of sticks to your finger and doesn't adhere to the lids. It glided on really easily, so I'm just gonna leave it like this. I was gonna top it with at least one more shimmer, but I'm gonna have to try the shimmers from the Coral Me Maybe palette another day. And actually, I am gonna use one more matte shade from the Bronze This Way palette. I'm just gonna take this light matte shade and clean up the edges. And I almost forgot, I'm also gonna do my lower lash line. So just applying that light matte shade on my brow bone and buffing around the edges. I like doing this to clean up the look a little bit. I think that's light enough. Sometimes they look lighter in the pan, and then once it's on my brow bone, it looks a little darker. So these shades do have names, by the way. I don't know why I didn't read the shade names as I was doing the look. I kind of just described them to you as I was doing everything. But I'm gonna apply the shade Love Yourself, and I'm just running that all along my lower lash line. And then I'm gonna take the light peach shade called In My Way, and I'm gonna use that to buff out the other shade. And then I'm gonna take a little bit of the shade No Mistakes, and I'm gonna keep that on the outer corner. I'm also going to apply the shade Perfect Babe. I know it's a shimmer, but I like applying some sort of shimmer to the inner portion, tapping that on and bringing it in about halfway. It just adds a little pop. This is definitely my kind of go-to bronzy look, especially in the spring and summer. So these palettes really impressed me so far, and they're only $3.99 each, which is kind of crazy, especially with drugstore prices being out of control lately, but Essence just somehow manages to keep things super affordable even to this day. I'm gonna do my brows next, and this is another product that I have purchased before, and I actually decluttered the one that I had, which was a different shade. It was just getting really old and it wasn't performing the way that it used to, but this is the Make Me Brow Eyebrow Gel Mascara, and this has filling fibers, which you can see little fibers on the actual wand. So I feel like that's what really helps my brows. It really helps to make them look fluffier and more filled in. This is in the shade 06 Ebony Brows, which I'm pretty sure is a new shade. I think this is gonna be a better match than Brownie Brows, which was a little too light at times. So I'm gonna go ahead and try this. I might have to not talk during this portion so that I can focus. Okay, this is definitely a much better match for my brows. It is a black brown shade, and because it is darker than the one that I used to have, I feel like it makes more of a difference. It does fill in the sparse areas of my brows. They are pretty thin as it is, so this really helps out. And this might be the first brow gel that I ever purchased. I just thought about that. So I have purchased this a few times throughout the years, and I still really enjoy it. Okay, time for mascara. This is the Lash Princess False Lash Effect Mascara in the shade Black. So I'm gonna use this one on my top lashes. This is a favorite mascara of mine. I am super picky with mascaras, but this one gives so much volume and length. So far from the drugstore, I would say this is my favorite mascara, and I have repurchased it several times. It also wears really well. I just love how dramatic it makes my lashes look. And then for my bottom lashes, I'm gonna take the black brown shade of the same mascara. This one I don't love for my top lashes. I feel like it gets a little too clumpy. The formula does seem to be a little bit different, but I think if you like a more natural look, you would probably like this. Okay, time for some powder blushes. I do have a few from Essence. This one I just picked up. This is the Pure Nude Baked Blush in the shade Rosy Rosewood. I already had the shade Goldie Cassis, which the packaging did break on me a few minutes ago, but this is a pinky sort of purple shade. It looks a lot more purple in the pan than when you apply it to your cheeks, so it's just a really pretty shade. I love applying this when I wear purple or pink eyeshadow. It pairs really nicely with that, but unfortunately the packaging did break on me. I don't even know how this happened. I was just holding it and then it broke and I dropped it and somehow it didn't break further. I also have these two called the Blush. This one is in the shade Befitting. The packaging also broke on this one, but this is a really pretty matte shade. It's pinky, but it's more of a neutral pink. And then I also have the shade Bespoke, and this one is a bronzy blush shade. This is probably my favorite one out of all of the blushes that I have from Essence, and I love the formula as well. It looks really glowy on the cheeks. But I'm gonna try out Rosy Rosewood, and then maybe I'll layer another one over top. The satin blushes have a really pretty finish to them. They're satin, of course, but they do remind me of the ones from Hourglass. Yeah, that is super pretty. It seems to be more pigmented than the other shade that I have in this formula. Okay, let's go in with a little bit of the shade Bespoke, and I'm just gonna take that same brush and lightly apply it right over top. I just want to tone down some of the rosiness and bring back a little bit of bronziness. I'm just taking my powder brush and toning it down a little bit. But I really like those two shades combined. Time for some highlighter, and this one has been around for a while, and you're probably not surprised, but this is the Pure Nude highlighter in the shade Be My Highlight. You really can't go wrong with this highlighter, and I think they do have a couple more shades, but this looks gorgeous on the skin. It's not the kind of highlighter that's super blinding, but because of that, it doesn't emphasize too much of my texture. I just love the way that this lays on the skin. So just applying that onto the high points of my face. I never feel like I go overboard with this highlighter, but you can build it up if you want to. I'm also gonna apply that to my inner corners. I think it was actually Kathleen Lights that made this highlighter so popular. I do remember hearing about it from her. These lip liners I have used a few times, but I don't feel like I've tested them enough, but I do remember really liking them. I just haven't used them in a little while. But these are the 8-Hour Matte Comfort Lip Liners, and I have two shades. This one is called Cinnamon Spice. This is probably gonna be the one that I use today. And then I also have Silky Hazelnut. Yeah, I think I'm gonna use Cinnamon Spice because this look is pretty warm toned. This is a really nice formula. It is matte, but I feel like it is still creamy when you apply it. And I remember these lasting a while on me. This is a warm nude shade. I did pick up two lipsticks. These are the semi-matte lipsticks, and this one is in the shade Bold. Super creamy. I'm not used to wearing shades like this, but it does complement the look really well, especially that matte peach shade that I have in the crease. But let me take this off and I'll show you the shade Lovable. And just so that I don't have to reapply my lip liner, I'm gonna like blot it off. And I'm just gonna apply the shade Lovable right over top. And this is a deeper brown shade. I can already tell I'm gonna love this one. Oh yeah, that one is my kind of shade. That is such a pretty brown shade. It actually doesn't look too warm. It looks more like a neutral brown with a hint of warmth. The lighter shade I probably wouldn't wear on its own. Maybe over top of a deeper lip liner. It's just a little too light and peachy for me, but this shade is perfect for me. But that is everything for my full face of Essence. I am really impressed with a lot of these products, especially for being first impressions. I wasn't sure how some of these products were going to perform, but a lot of them completely exceeded my expectations, especially the eyeshadow palettes. I can't wait to keep playing with these. The fact that these are only $3.99 is still really surprising to me. And then the foundation also surprised me. This looks a lot better than what I thought it would. I have seen quite a few mixed reviews on this, and I guess the main complaint from people is the shade range. They don't have the best shade range, but luckily I was able to find something that matches me overall. I think this would look even better paired with a primer, so I'm gonna have to keep playing around with this, but so far I'm really impressed. These lipsticks are really beautiful. They're super creamy. I love the satin finish. My favorite shade is definitely Lovable, which is the deeper one. The powders are really nice. Of course, I've been a longtime fan of the banana powder, but the Keep Me Covered powder also really impressed me so far. And then same with the cream bronzer and blush sticks. I think I prefer the bronzer stick though. I do like the blush, but I think I want to pick up another shade and see how I like it. But so far it's nice. It did seem to fade a little quickly for me, so I'll just have to keep testing it. The concealer is just okay so far. I do like how hydrating it is, and because of that, it did settle into my fine lines. Nothing crazy, but I did see a little bit of settling and creasing. It did look better once I set it with powder, but even then, I think it's just a really hydrating formula, and the coverage is just decent. I love this bronzer palette so far. I feel like it's super versatile, especially because there is only one of these, I'm pretty sure, but the 4 shades that you get in here, I feel like a variety of different skin tones could use them. Of course, you already know that I love the blushes. the Lash Princess mascara, especially the one in black. I love the brow gel. The lip liners are really nice. And of course, the highlighter. So I just wanted to give you a quick run through of some of the products that I tried for the first time today. Let me know if there's any products that you've tried out recently from Essence, or if you have any longtime favorites. I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.